And now, a show with inappropriate language. The Powell Movement.
Welcome to The Powell Movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and this week I'm starting to get over it. I'm starting to see cracks in my and my friends' collective stay the F at home policy that we've all been about for weeks. This week alone, I walked to 2 different friends' houses for outdoor social distancing parties, and I felt a lot more relaxed than I have in the past when hanging out. So it wasn't too bad, but then my worst fear happened. One of my family members was sick and in pain on Saturday night, and it got to the level where we had to go to urgent care in downtown Seattle. So I have to go into the belly of the fucking beast, but I'm not afraid. I have masks, I have gloves, I have Clorox wipes, and I bring these everywhere. The shitty thing about going to the hospital, for me and everyone else in my part of Seattle, West Seattle, is that when this pandemic started, they found cracks in the bridge that takes 125,000 people a day in and out of Seattle. And they've closed the bridge for repairs. The only other bridge that'll give you downtown access is reserved for essential personnel, meaning that we had to drive 30 minutes instead of 8 to get to urgent care. And what really sucks is that the bridge won't be open until 2022, which is insane, but so is everything right now. So we get to urgent care, and it's great. There's no one there, and we do a few tests, get our meds, and are on our way home 2.5 hours later. Hopefully, we don't get the sickness from the doctor, and on the way home, Dick's Burgers, an institution in Seattle, was open. Their burgers are really cheap, and they taste that way. But it's cool to do something normal. Another normal thing I did was I went to the butcher for the first time in a long time. I picked up some tri-tip to throw on my Traeger. And speaking of Traeger, they gave me a grill and asked me to mention it a couple times. I find myself mentioning it way too much because I love their product. I'm sure you grill too, and yeah, your meat may be bigger, but my meat tastes better than yours every time. Your meat can taste great too. All you need to do is buy a Traeger. And speaking of meat, my guest has never had my meat in his mouth, but that's not important right now. Marcus Caston is one of those skiers that everyone likes to watch for his fun, loose style, which is not the norm for a guy with a ski race background. Over the past decade, Marcus has had more published photos than almost anyone I can think of, and I won't spoil the interview any more than that. Before we get into it, I want to say thank you to Tom Moreno. When this whole thing started, he asked me if I needed any help with things. Outside of the art, this thing has always been a one-man show, but I welcome Tom into the mix, and I want to thank him for all the help on the pre-production work that he's been doing. Thanks for being a good dude in general as well. And now for the last of the stuff about me. I want to ask you to subscribe to my podcast wherever you listen to it. I also want to let you know that I am currently 9-0 at my drinking challenges that run every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night on my Instagram at The Powell Movement at 5 p.m. sharp. If you think you have what it takes, send me a DM on Insta and we'll work out the details. So another week, another intro that I think is going to be short, and here we are. One final thing that I'll never forget to do is to thank my sponsors who have stood by me in this tough time. They are Evo, Stanley, 686, and the 10 Barrel Brewery. Please support them. And now, let's talk with Marcus Caston. What was going on with your season when everything shut down? Where were you?
Well, I had actually just returned from Switzerland. I got back to the States at about the right time, I'd say. Stuff was hitting the fan there in northern Italy, and I was 2 months in Engelberg, Switzerland.
Poor you.
Well, it was pretty warm, not a lot of snow, a lot of cheese, a lot of wine, not a lot of powder skiing. But got home, and then shit kind of hit the fan. I was lucky to be home, and not stuck somewhere, I guess.
You're an athlete and you're always doing something, I would think, always on the go, a ton of energy. How do you stay sane with this whole quarantine? Are you actually going out and doing stuff and not posting about it? Or are you just sitting at home and going crazy?
A little bit of both, honestly. I live in Salt Lake. I came up to it's called Nordic Valley. It's about an hour north of Salt Lake. I got a friend. He's got an extra little A-frame cabin.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of quarantined by myself in this little A-frame. And I got a little ski slope behind me. So I just walk right outside, make a couple laps. So I've been getting out, but going up, down, getting exercise, like not doing anything to put me or others at risk, not seeing anybody. So, I'm fully quarantined, but still getting out and trying to stay in shape. I don't know. It's hard to say, like, okay, so I've been going out the groomer, down the groomer. Like, that seems to be okay. I just don't want to put others at risk, I guess.
It sounds like if you are quarantined by yourself at an A-frame and you're doing this by yourself, it's probably okay. If you're one of those dudes that's hiking up Superior, might be an issue.
Right. I don't know. I still have friends all the time that are, yeah, hey, let's go out, let's go skiing. If you're skiing with a different person every day, it doesn't seem like it's the best thing. I don't know. It's just kind of, it's crazy times.
I think what you're doing is justifiable, doing it by yourself. I mean, the only issue with you would be what happened if you got hurt on your little slope and you had to take away from medical care. But I don't think that's going to happen based on what you're saying. But there's so many people that I would think would be like, let's do the responsible thing. Let's do the responsible thing. But you still see them posting about them going out and doing stuff. Have you seen some offenders that you're kind of surprised to see them actually going out and getting after it?
I don't know where I come down on the whole thing, whether it even matters if you're posting new stuff or old stuff. I see a lot of people posting things from, earlier this season when it was really great out. Like, what good does that do? I don't know. I've been kind of off social media, taking this time to be off of it as much as I can. I went through a massive unfollow the last couple days, and it feels good. So I wanted to start the 10-day get off social media challenge.
How do you tell people that?
Via social media.
Okay.
No, I don't know. To each their own. If social media is doing it for you and you want to post pictures of your winner and that makes you feel good, go for it. If you want to see photos of other people's winner, get on there. But I'm enjoying my time off.
Okay. And for you, I mean, you're not far from home right now. You're born and raised in Salt Lake City. And I think you get there because your dad's a ski bum and he heads to Utah to work at like the Snow Pine Lodge in Alta. Mm-hmm. Your dad still rip on skis?
Oh, yeah. He's a good skier. He's slowing down a little bit, but it's funny. Like, I see him ski and we ski exactly the same way. It's kind of frightening. I mean, I skied with my dad the first 10 years of my life, and then I joined the race program at Snowbird. And for the next 10 years, it was ski racing and being trained a certain way and being told to ski a certain way and doing drills. And after all of that, I still ski exactly like him. So it's kind of funny how that happens.
Is it one of those things where you can be on the lift with someone and see your dad skiing down and they'll be like, whoa, that dude skis just like you. And then you're like, yeah, it's my dad.
Well, it's funny. He gets all my hand-me-downs now. He's got all the heli hits and the outerwear and the blizzard skis and the, pocket. We look exactly the same. I've gotten photos from people that are like, yo, check out this dude in the lift line. He looks exactly like you. Yeah, I know. That's my dad.
Oh, that's funny. How about your mom? Is she an athlete as well?
No, she enjoys skiing. She enjoys, biking, going for walks, but she's not a diehard skier. I think she just reluctantly followed my dad out west and then loved it.
And while your dad may have started out as a ski bum, he is no bum by any means. He ends up doing law school and is a lawyer. What type of law does he practice?
Family law. So I think it was after college, he moved out to Alta, did a year at the Snow Pine Lodge, and then went back to law school in Connecticut, and then came out here and took the bar exam and stayed at the Snow Pine while he was studying for all that. That was it. So, yeah, family law.
Divorce stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Are your parents still together?
They are.
All right. Well, good. Because your dad would take your mom to the cleaners.
Yeah. I think my mom would take him to the cleaners.
Okay. Do you have any good lawyer jokes?
I think all my lawyer jokes are somehow like really priest jokes, which are not super appropriate.
I'm Jewish. Priest jokes are totally cool on the podcast.
Right.
I can give you my priest joke that is Jewish, kind of. Did you hear about the rabbi that raped all those little boys?
No.
Because we don't do that shit.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I'm going to guess for you, there's no struggling going on when you're growing up. Your dad's a lawyer, so there's probably money in the family. And you're born to be a skier. Your dad's a ski bum who becomes a lawyer, and you're born into everything.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate. And honestly, yeah, that's kind of how it was. Like, I was born into skiing, and that has become somewhat of a question, like, is this really what I want to be doing? Or is it just kind of what I do because that's what I do and I've always done? And I think there's maybe a little bit of both.
Well, it's like the family business, I mean, it's like your family passion. You're definitely going to get into what your dad does. And when you're good at it, it's something that takes off and it's easy to stay into it. So while it might not have been a choice, I mean, you have the same passion as well, I would think.
I do. I think that's right. I mean, it's just like a matter of, I don't know if I've had other opportunities, like if I grew up in California, would I enjoy surfing, like should I drop everything I'm doing now and go try to learn how to surf? It's hard to say how much of it is I got to where I was because I really loved it, and I do, or just how much of it is because that's what my life path was,
Yeah, and I think when we get through your life and times too, we're going to see that track of how you did something that you loved and then you probably eventually hated, and then you came back and found a new passion for a total different side of the sport almost.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like how it lays out on the map. But home mountain for you growing up, are you guys skiing at the Bird or are you going to Alta? Where do you guys go?
A little bit of both, but mostly Snowbird.
And I have been to Utah many of times, and while you can have an amazing experience at Snowbird at a place like the Cliff Lodge and you get that 5-star everything, I feel like there's a better, cheaper experience to Alta or Snowbird that every skier or snowboarder needs to take part in at least once, and that's staying at the Peruvian. As a local, can you describe what that place is all about?
Yeah, it's cool. It's just kind of got like, old school family ski vibe, which is disappearing, especially in Utah. As these resorts get bigger and more people come, like it's nice to see. It's like this old little wooden cabiny feel. But yeah, I'm more of a Sitzmark Alta Lodge guy than a Alta Peruvian guy, but it's cool.
Okay. And then I heard your dad, when you were younger, he taught you some upper level ski bumming skills. He taught you how to get into the hot tub at the Cliff Lodge, and that's a hard thing to do. Over the years, I would think that you've accumulated a lot more ski bumming tricks. And what are some of your go-tos that you used over the years, especially when you're dirtbagging it?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question.
I mean, Charlie Ager can get you on the lift at Whistler. He can get you into the movie theater. He can have all your meals taken care of just by doing ski bum type things. What are you able to do?
Right. What am I able to do? What's my ski bum superpower?
Exactly.
Poaching hot tubs and pools. I think it was a lot easier to poach the hot tub at the Cliff when I was a kid. They've remodeled and upgraded, and now you need a key to get in there, but I have a key in my car that works. So I'm still getting into the hot tub at the Cliff Lodge.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm going to think about this. As soon as we hang up, I'm going to have a really good answer.
Yeah, I know. And then we're not going to put it in the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how it works,
Right, which is a problem. That's not how it's supposed to go. I'm supposed to have like an answer for this.
Yeah, but sometimes you just don't because it's all spur of the moment. It's not like I'm sending you questions early.
Because I've been sitting here on this deck for a month not thinking about anything, and now I got to use my brain.
Yeah, well, you only have to do it for an hour. Do you have anything for us?
Ski bum tricks. I don't know if it's a ski bum trick, but like getting on an airplane, I always get on last.
It's a pro skier thing.
Right, that's a pro skier thing.
But you're a pro skier, so you might as well just tell us your pro skier trick.
I don't know. It's kind of a ski bum thing, in a way, dirtbag thing. I get on last, so you can go find the empty seat, like in the better part of the plane. So, like, if there's a seat up in business class, you can get up in there, and nobody's going to come and, oh, this is my seat.
That is very smart.
Is it, though?
I mean, it's, it's cheating the system, but if you're on a 5-hour flight and you can be in business class instead of in the back of the plane, that's pretty awesome. And if no one calls you out on it, you don't feel like a douchebag about doing it.
Right. I think a lot of it is just acting like you know what you're doing. If you act like you know what you're doing, people just don't question it. And that comes down to what? Like, if you're looking sneaky and looking like you're doing something wrong, people are going to think you're doing something wrong. But if you just own it, whatever, sit in first class, sit in business class, whatever, you can steal candy bars, or if you do it with confidence, you can get away with it.
Yep. And I think that's with everything in life.
Right.
So in your skiing, are you a weekend warrior, or are you getting up a little bit more when you're in grade school and high school? How does that work out for you?
I think I was a weekend warrior up until I was about maybe 12 years old.
Okay.
It was my mom's boss's sons were on the Snowbird ski team. And I think they were talking, and they were like, oh, your son's into skiing. Like, you should check out the ski team. And so they put me in the Devo program up there 1 day a week. It was Saturdays. And then I would ski with my dad on Sundays. I don't know if that was for about a year or half a year, but I remember being out with my dad on a Sunday, and the ski team kids rolled by, and, I was like, Dad, come on. I want to go ski with you. He was like, okay, go. And then I was a Saturday, Sunday kid from then on.
skiing with your dad is one thing, but when you go to a race program, there's structure and rules and a little bit different than just going out and making turns with dad. Did you love that part of it too?
The Devo program at Snowbird is pretty much just going out and making turns with all your buddies and peer pressuring each other into doing stuff and getting better. So it really is just a lot of ripping around.
So it's not just banging gates all day long.
No, not at all. No, the Devo program. So at Snowbird, it's like Devo, and then it's called J Fast, older kids. I think until you're about 13, 14, you're pretty much just skiing a lot.
Kind of like a free ride program?
I don't know if it's a free ride, but you're going out and you're skiing, but maybe it's like focused free skiing. And yeah, you do some gates in the afternoon or you free ski in the morning or something like that. But it's a lot of free skiing. Or when it snows, you go powder skiing. We learned a lot from just skiing behind the coaches. I think I was really lucky at Snowbird. There's just this culture of like all the coaches grew up on the ski team there and they learned from their coaches. You see it now change over where all these kids I grew up with, we all ski really similar and we all ski like the older coaches. Now these kids are the coaches, and it's just everybody loves skiing and loves Snowbird, and it's a really great culture. You kind of just learn from following. So it's maybe less standing around listening to somebody and more just like following them, which is a great way to learn, I think.
I agree, yeah. And when you're growing up, there's a ton of great skiers that I would think are in your program. Who are some of the people that are part of your crew?
We had so many good skiers around my age. Like, I think I met Angel Collinson day one. There's Mitch Brower, some of the older kids, Ryan Woolison, Brock Howell. Johnny was there, but he was a bit younger. Brandon Ruby, Jared Goldberg, they were on the U.S. ski team for a little while. There's a lot of good skiers.
Yep.
And the kids that didn't grow up to be national team kids or pro skiers, but go on to college. Or we had a girl, Shalea Kipp. She went on to become an Olympic runner. Tristan Gale was an Olympic skeleton. Like, just love of sport. And then there's all these other kids that just went on to do other things, like get jobs, but they're better skiers than a lot of us. And they're there 3 times a week, 4 times a week. So it's cool.
They should be great skiers. Anybody who grows up in a ski town who's got a family that pushes them into skiing, if you're getting that many dates a year your whole life, you should be a great skier at that point. And if you don't choose to go the pro ski route, there's plenty of other things to do. Sounds like a lot of the people that you grew up with did other things. But you were focused on skiing, and with racing, when it starts picking up for you, from people I talked to, it sounds like you always had it. Like, it's hard to say what it is, but when people saw you ski, everyone took notice. Like, everybody loved watching you ski. And did you stand out to coaches and racers right away? Because it's a weird thing that I see now. It's like when I first saw you and Warren Miller, it was like, who is this guy? And wow, he skis different than everybody, and it's awesome.
It's hard to say. Like, when I was racing, I always looked up to Bodie and Ted and these guys that have a little bit more of a wild style. And I was never the most efficient skier, and I think that probably drove a lot of coaches nuts because I wasn't always fast. I think I was more athletic than like really a good ski racer, and that only lasts so long.
I talked to a few people who said that when they'd watch you during a race, you would look like you had the fastest time of the day, and then when the times would show up, you never had a very fast time, and it was weird because the optics of it was like, that dude's going to win today. And was that like shocking to you when you get into the corral and look up and your time wouldn't be as good as you thought?
I think it was, but in hindsight, and I maybe kind of knew it back then, like when you're just reacting to things, things are coming at you really quick. When you're on top of it, things are coming at you a little bit slower and you're a little bit more controlled. So if you're running down a hill, things are coming at you really quick. You're probably in trouble. If you're looking ahead, things are coming at you a little bit slower, but you're probably a bit faster. And I think that was kind of my case. I was a little bit straight out of control. Like, I watched the Freeride World Tour. Like, you see these people that are totally out of control, and it looks like they're just getting way sicker than somebody who makes it look really easy. But that's kind of the cool thing in ski racing. It doesn't matter. It's just time. That's the coolest thing about it.
Are there any other sports for you other than ski racing when you're growing up? Like before you get to high school, or do you do any team stuff?
Yeah, I played soccer. I guess halfway through high school until like tryouts were in the spring and I couldn't do that, or in the fall or whatever. Yeah, and then skiing just kind of took over.
Now it is time for me to take my first sponsor break. And my first sponsor is Evo. And while Evo's retail locations are closed for distancing, don't worry. If you haven't been to evo.com lately, you are missing out on the best deals on the internet. Evo is the first website to focus on the digital space in action sports, and they do it better than anyone else. They have all the brands, all the products, and the resources and customer service to make sure you get what you need. If that's not enough, Evo offers free shipping on orders over $50, a low price guarantee, and a hassle-free return policy. And I have a special deal for you. Shop for any Evo branded product that is as good or better than the big brand stuff, and when you check out, use the code POWEL20 and you will save 20% on your entire order. Evo gives a percentage of sales back to local charities, and right now, that is more important than ever. My next sponsor is 686. They have been the independent outerwear brand in snow since 1992, and they make the best gear on the planet. That's no bullshit. My 686 Glacier jacket is the best jacket I've ever owned. And since 686 sent me a pair of Everywhere pants, I've lived in them. Next, they ship the Everywhere shirt, which is now my favorite shirt. And go figure, another box arrives the other day and they've one-upped themselves again with the Everywhere shorts. It's the same great design as the Everywhere pant, only made into a short. And they're stretchable, breathable, and they dry quickly. They're perfect for when we can start playing outdoors again. You can find out more about the Everywhere shorts and all things 686 over at 686.com. Those are some of my great sponsors. Now, let's jump back into the podcast. And you're a super athletic guy, you were saying, just based on your skiing. You might not have been the best ski racer, but you're really athletic. Were you one of the better soccer players as well? Were you a dude who's good at like everything he does?
I feel like I was pretty good at soccer. I don't know if I was. There's a lot of good soccer players, man. It's crazy. But yeah, I think that helps. And I think soccer and skiing go really well together. They teach you to be agile and work hard. Like, there's kind of no substitution in those sports for like hard work. And in soccer, you got to be in shape. You got to do the drills. Same thing as skiing.
One thing with sports is size, and that plays into everything. And you are by no means a giant. You are probably what, like 5'6", 5'7"?
I'm probably about 5'7" now. Yeah, shorter, thicker kid. Closer to the ground, more agile.
Does that ever hold you back, you think, skiing, where if you maybe had more weight and size behind you, you'd get more velocity going down the hill?
I think when you're younger, that certainly comes into play. Like when you're 14, 15 and you go to these races and all the huge kids, like the kids that have beards,
Yeah.
they're all winning the races. You're just like, fuck, come on, how can I compete with this? But it all evens out in the end, I think. You know, Darren Rawls, he wasn't a big guy. He's, I don't know, he's about my size.
Yep.
You know, one of the best America's best downhiller.
Yeah. Height won't stop you if you have the ability and the work ethic.
Right, or you just figure out a different way. And that's kind of the cool thing about ski racing is, again, it's just time. Like, there's no one right or wrong way. You're fast or you're not. You look at somebody like Bodie. He's got a totally different style and made it work for him. Like, nobody teaches that. And I think that's cool. Like, there's no right or wrong way to do it. You're just fast or you're not.
The clock doesn't care at all. And for you, I mean, high school is all about racing as well. And I think you end up going to a boarding school. Do you board at the boarding school or just commute?
No, I was at the winter sports school. So it's up in Park City. And yeah, again, I live in Salt Lake. So I would just drive up to Park City every day. It was at the Utah Olympic Park. And you go to school in the summer from like April through October, November. And then you get the winters off. So you can go back to your club and train. So that was pretty cool. You know, all the teachers there, a lot of them are all either ex-ski racers or ex-athletes in some way. So they kind of understand what you're going through and what you're trying to do. And all the other kids there are doing the same thing. So that was kind of a cool experience.
That school's known for producing a ton of racers. I think Peekaboo Street went there, Breezy Johnson. There's a bunch of people that went through that school. That means it's a serious thing. I mean, if your parents are going to fork out a bunch of money for you to go to a race school, skiing is all you were thinking about. I think you have soccer as well. But in a lifestyle like that in high school, how much time are you spending on the snow? The breakout of your life has got to be different than most kids.
Yeah, the winter school, there's no coaches there. It's not a race program. You're just going to school like a normal kid in the summer. Like, I went to 2 years of public high school, and then I was in public junior high school. It probably started when I was in 4th grade. you start going to school for half days and then you're done. You go to school from 8 to noon and then you have to get out of class to go work out or go skiing. So that was actually kind of the biggest thing about switching to this winter school. It's like, okay, now I'm going to school from 8 to 3 every day. And that was tough. Full days at school.
Being a regular kid?
Being a regular kid. Yeah, I mean, it's in the summer and you're with other ski kids, but it really is more of a focus on school than I had when I was actually in regular school. I liked it, but what was the question? What were we talking about?
Well, it doesn't even matter what the question is. I'm just trying to figure out what life is like back then. Because if skiing is such a big focus for you and you're doing school in the summer, like, are you spending hours in the gym and watching video of the way that you're breaking down your racing? And is it everything that your life is about in school you just have to get through to focus more on racing?
Yeah, kinda. In a way it is. But in a way, you're still a kid and kids find a way to have fun. Like the friends that I had, they were all into the same stuff. Like, yeah, maybe you go to dryland, then you hang out after. You can only work out so many hours a day. But yeah, you're pretty focused.
Olympics, Junior Olympics, is that what you want to do with your life?
Yeah, Junior Olympics is not as important as it sounds. It has nothing to do with the Olympics.
Okay.
But you want to make the U.S. ski team and make World Cup and go to the Olympics. That's the path. And that's what you're tunnel visioned into that. I think in a way, that's kind of what I believed. Like that's how it was going to work out. That's how it was going to be. Kind of no doubt in my mind. And I think that's why a lot of people, I'm sure it happens in other sports, but a lot of ski racers really struggle. Obviously, not everybody makes it. You come to a point where it's like, okay, well, I got to go to college or I'm going to be done and this isn't going to be a real thing. And it's like, since I've been 12 years old, I've thought this was my life. This is how I identify myself. Who am I now without this? So yeah, I think from 12 to 20, I kind of just fully believed that that was my path.
I get the dream and wanting to keep it alive. But do you have results that keep you on the podium and give you the belief that it's actually going to happen?
I think here and there, I could ski fast in sections. I think if I had figured out a couple little things, I wish somebody had told me to take a step back and go slower. I think I would have had a little bit more perspective. In my head, I was just like full gas. And when you're full gas, you really can't work on anything. But I thought that was super sick to be like out of control and wild and almost, on the edge.
Yeah.
It's not fast. It's just not fast.
With most podcasts, especially the ones that I do with people that go to ski academies or winter schools, this is the point in life where most forget about education and they want to focus on their budding ski career. Would it be safe to say when you graduate high school, like you don't really have a ski career?
Kind of. Oh, so I graduated high school and went up to Jackson Hole and did a post-grad year. So that's kind of a thing in ski racing. You take a year or two off after high school to try to make either the U.S. team or whatever college team. NCAA racing in the States is super competitive. A lot of those kids go on to race World Cup or are racing World Cup. So it's pretty intense. So I graduated in the fall, so that winter I went up to Jackson Hole, was in the ski club there. And then I did 2 years after that at Romark Ski Academy just to like focus on ski racing. So the first year, I think in my mind, I was still trying to make the team. The second one, I was like, okay, I got to switch gears and make a college team. So I was better at speed events. I think the way I ski, just like the longer turns punish me less. It just came more natural. It's more like free skiing to me. There's jumps, you ski more with the terrain. So that was kind of my natural talent, like that side of things. And then they only do GS slalom or tech events in college. So that last year I had to switch gears and focus on that. And that was a struggle because you're focusing on something that you're like not great at. And this like sport was slipping away from me and I didn't know what was happening, and it was like this big question mark. It was like, dude, you have till the end of the year to get your shit together or you're done. And that's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, especially that's everything that you've got is skiing.
Right. And then it's this downward spiral. You got all this pressure and then you're not doing well and you beat yourself up and it's just not a recipe for success,
Yeah, you can't go into anything with a good headspace.
No. Like sitting up in the starting gate going like, oh, fuck, this is it. Like, this is your one shot. It's not a good headspace to be in for performance.
Not at all. To lighten things up a little bit, your first job I read is that you were working the zip line up at Snowbird. And zip lines are super fun, and they're also
Yeah.
risky. There's an element of danger that you come from the city and you're not used to doing anything. You're like, oh, I'm going to do the zip line, and that's a story for the rest of your life. You did this crazy zip line. But I'm sure there's accidents that happen at zip lines too. What's the worst thing you ever saw on the zip line?
Oh man, we never had a bad accident on the zip line. Like, thank God, because there is a lot that could go wrong. And we'd pull pranks on people. Like, you'd be changing out the brake. It was like this little plastic piece that was above the wire that like kind of cammed down and created friction on the wire.
Mm-hmm.
Every so often, like, that would wear down and you'd have to change it out. So you'd climb up there, like pretend to fall, and you'd fall under the net behind the doors where people can't see you. And yeah, they're like totally freaked out. But we had no accidents on the zip line, thank God. But it is funny to see people get freaked out. And I think I honestly kind of like that.
So we're going to go back to college. Is it University of Utah that you go to first?
Yeah, so I went to U of U. I wanted to ski race there. I didn't make the team. And I was just like, fuck it. I don't want to leave Utah.
Well, that's got to be the lowest point of your life, right? When you don't make that team, that's the moment where you've worked your whole life. And the next step is making the University of Utah team, then the U.S. team. But at the University of Utah level, they tell you you're not good enough.
It was tough. Lowest part of my life. I don't know. Really, it came down to that one conversation. No, we can't have you. But I could have seen it coming from a mile away. And I did, in a way. And at that point, I was just super done, super over it. And I could have gone to school somewhere else and raced somewhere else. But I used that as my excuse. I was burnt out and I was like, okay, I'm done. That's it. And so, yeah, I went to school at the U like a normal student. And it's tough, man. It's tough. Like, you grow up thinking you're like this special thing. And then all of a sudden you're sitting in a classroom with hundreds of other kids that are just like these normal kids. You know, you feel like you've experienced all these things. And in a way you have, in a way you haven't. I think ski racing, you grow up quick. And so now I'm sitting there as a 21-year-old kid, sitting with all these 18-year-old kids in class that are all like trying to party and this and that. I think by the time I got to college, like, I was pretty much done with all my partying.
Are you pissed at skiing? Do you take some time off from skiing and be like, man, I just don't want to ski at all anymore right now. It just makes me angry.
It's funny. It's funny. I was super pissed at skiing, which is like, how can you be mad at this thing that like really it doesn't even exist? Yeah, I was totally pissed. Like, I put so much into it and got nothing out of it, which is not really true. But yeah, I took a year off of skiing. I really didn't ski much at all that full year. And my circle of buddies was this kid, Max Lamb. He was ski racing at the U, but he was kind of going through the same thing, like not making the ski team. And his buddy, this kid Tucker, was a snowboarder. And yeah, same thing. Like, the three of us, three kids that thought we were all special, that were overwhelmed by this whole system that we were in. And we just kind of hung out and hunkered down together.
I think you pick up photography, and I don't know if that's what gets you back on snow, but how does it all work where you realize that you love skiing and you need to do it?
Yeah, it was about then. I don't know what prompted me to buy a camera, but I did, and I started figuring it out, and it was great. It was fun, and I started rock climbing a lot that year. And then it was the next summer that I needed a job, and so one of the only things I know how to do is ski. And so I went up to Mount Hood to coach ski racing. And after coaching, we were done around noon coaching with the kids. We'd hike up above the lanes there, about 30, 45 minutes, ski over to this, it's called the Illumination Rock. You can see Mount St. Helens, you can see Portland, you see Jefferson. It's beautiful. And sit there, have some beers, ski 4,000 feet of corn down. And I just remember like skiing this big open cornfield, going like, this is the first time I felt like I've had fun on skis in 4 or 5 years. You know, I remember what this is about. Like, this is the joy of skiing that I had when I was a kid. Like, this is why I did it. And so much made sense to me then. I was like, wow, I just went about this the wrong way, the last 5 years. I guess in hindsight, like, it was just too serious. I think it would have been a better skier if I had not cared as much in a way. But I'm glad it worked out the way it did. So that's kind of what got me back into skiing, was that summer was just like, oh yeah, I'm not getting yelled at. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just going skiing and having fun. and this is what it's about.
And this is like summer of 2010-ish or something like that?
Yeah, it must be about that.
You're shooting photos of skiers at one point, or are you just doing landscapes?
I was shooting photos of ski racing. Again, I don't know how or why I decided that was what I was going to be into. I got a camera, and I think it was just kind of my one little connection to the ski racing world still. That was really fun that I was kind of holding on to.
And you know all the people, you might as well use your relationships to be able to take the job behind the lens.
Yeah, I didn't really have any jobs per se, but I enjoyed it, and it was just kind of my connection back to ski racing. And I guess in a different way, I could enjoy the sport, you know?
Yeah, there's no pressure on you.
Yeah.
You're not going to win at photography. It's just like, hey, go out there, take some photos, ski, and have fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of people that were helping me along the way get to places where other people couldn't get into, you know? And my knowledge of ski racing allowed me to also get to those places, like where to set up. So I was taking pictures of ski racing, and that's when I met Ted Ligety and started taking photos for his helmet goggle company, Shred.
Okay.
And then a year after that, he had a deal with Warren Miller where he was going to go to Alaska and film a segment for them in exchange for him being a NASTAR ambassador or something. And yeah, he called me up and asked if I wanted to go up there, go skiing, because it was mostly a race company. And I was like 1 foot in ski racing, 1 foot in big mountain skiing.
That whole year is like the big break of your career, I feel like. You go to the Banzai Tour, which is Darren Ralphs' event. Were you there to shoot photos?
No, I was just racing in the Banzai.
Okay.
And it's funny, I'm still waiting on my big break, by the way. If anybody out there wants to give it to me, I'm still waiting. I've heard that, but I don't feel like I've had a big break yet.
Well, you figure at that point in your life, you're a photographer pretty much who's lucking out on a trip with Ligety because you're going to be shooting photos for him. So that part of exposure is going to start for you. And then you go to Darren Ralphs' event and you win that event, which puts you on the map of like people like me who pay attention to Darren Ralphs' shit. Although I don't pay attention to racing at all. I was like, oh, Marcus Caston, who's that? And you have to figure out who you are from there. So I think it does put you on the map as a big break to like everyone outside of the race world, because in the US, the race world is a little bubble that everybody wants to get out of. They look at the terrain park, most kids, and they're like, I want to do that. I don't want to be here, but my parents are forcing me to do it. The good ones, like yourself, they do it for a long time and then realize they hate it at one point because of all the pressure. Or they're great and they win medals. But there's two different roads, and it usually doesn't work out for everyone by any means. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but I feel like that was your big break.
Right. No, that's true. And that's valid. But it's funny, you know, if in my perspective, it was like, okay, I won this race. There was a couple other kids that were ski racers there that I knew from ski racing. There was this kid, Errol Kerr, who is, he's a great skier.
Jamaican Olympian.
Yeah, exactly.
I know Little Race.
And I went out there kind of on a whim. Like I remember the night before going like, oh man, I don't know. Should I go? Should I not? And I just like went out and did it and won that first race and beat Errol. But it was like, oh wow, I got to beat like 4 of these kids, not 100 of them to win a race.
Yeah.
But it was cool. And yeah, people took notice. And that was kind of my first, you're right. I mean, that was the next year. I don't know if I really knew what I was trying to do or what I was trying to be. And I certainly couldn't tell anybody at that point like what my goals were in skiing.
But this opens the door for you to be able to have a career in skiing, because before that it's kind of a question mark, I would think.
True.
So you win like $10,000, and that's pretty awesome as well for a dude who, even if you raced, I don't think you win that much money.
Nope.
And you might not look at it as, oh, that's my big break at the time, because there are zero expectations for you to do anything. People don't even know who you are when you're there, you know, except for your friends. So that's probably why it was easier for you, too, than being at a ski race, because no one was looking at you to do well.
True. And it was fun, man. Like, yeah, that first one, I went out with my friend, Melissa. We just drove out. She's an old ski racing friend. We like left Friday night from Salt Lake, got in super late to Reno. My buddy was like, oh, yeah, I got a place you can crash. Show up in Reno, they're having a raging party. We show up, we like drink all night, wake up, we're exhausted. We're like sleeping on people's floors and just totally bumming it. And then driving back on Sunday night, going to school Monday. I guess there was 4 races. You know, we did that like every other weekend for 2 months. It was like exhausting and so nerve-wracking, but like
Best time of your life?
Yeah, in hindsight, yeah, like just being total bums behind the Rainbow Casino in Windover at like 10 o'clock at night. You're like, oh shit, I got a race tomorrow in Squaw, you know?
Yeah. Now it is time for my final sponsor break, and I'm going to start things off with Stanley, the brand that has been a leader in keeping things hot and cold for over 100 years. They invented the vacuum bottle, and you've seen it so many times in your life. You know, that green bottle that kept your grandpa and your dad's coffee hot all day long? Well, Stanley still makes a bottle like that, and they work better than whatever you're using right now. The reason Stanley is the leader in hot and cold is because their product is better. I mean, they created the category and they keep innovating. But Stanley makes so much more than that iconic bottle. I personally use the water bottles and pint glasses daily, and my drinks stay hotter or colder than yours by at least an hour. You deserve that same quality. Now you can get 30% off all Stanley products by heading to their site, stanley-pmi.com, entering the code Powell and the number 30, all one word, and boom, it's that easy. My final sponsor is the 10 Barrel Brewery, and they have been brewing beer out of Bend, Oregon since 2006. And since they started brewing beer, they are committed to skiing, snowboarding, biking, and drinking beer outside. While I see a lot of copycat brands out there lately trying to mimic what 10 Barrel is doing in the outdoor space, no one puts their money where their mouth is like 10 Barrel. This year, they produced both a ski and a snowboard movie. The ski movie is Watch This, featuring Lucas Walks, and then they have Hold My Beer, a snowboard movie featuring Curtis Cizik. They had a whole lot more planned for winter, but with the quarantine, everything has been put on hold event-wise. The good news is that even with all that we're going through, you can still drink beer outside. Next time you're at the store, pick up a 6-pack of Profuse Juice, a hazy IPA that I'm loving right now, and a beer that gives 1% of sales back to the Surfrider Foundation. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. Through these events, your name's on the map now, and I think you head back to Snowbird. You run into the Collinsons, and they introduce you to Mike Scherf, who effectively, I think, ends your time behind the lens because he wants to shoot photos with you. Being that you were behind the camera for a while, does it make it easier for you being a skier in front of the camera to know what the photographer is looking for, being that you have that photo eye?
100% it does. And I don't understand at all how I imagine that there's some skiers that have no interest in photography, but I just can't imagine how that could be. You know, when you're out with a photographer or a film or whatever, you're a team and you're looking for things and you have to know what's going to shoot well and how you're going to ski well. And now it's like the guys that I like to go out with, they're also really good photographers. You know, all the skiers that I shoot with, they all have eyes for photography. You know, they all see it. And on the flip side, like all of these photographers are all really good skiers too.
Yeah. But with Mike and the other guys that you start shooting with, do they realize that you have like a magic thing for the camera? Because it's arguable that you are the best photo skier of our time based on the depth and breadth of what you've gotten in your career. From 2012 to 2017, you have like 75 publications that you've been in. Some of them are multiple photos and you're everywhere. Is it just easy for you to get a photo? Like, you know, you're going to get one every time you go out if the weather's right?
I wish that were true. It did happen quick. And I don't know if that's because I knew what I was doing or just because I have a style that makes it look better than it is. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it happened quick. Like I went out with Mike. I remember like we got some really great shots that day. And I don't think we had anything published from the first year with Mike. I'm trying to think. I don't know that to be true, but I mean, it happens really quick. I mean, it was like one photo in Powder, you know, and then a cover in Sweden, and then it was like boom, boom, boom. So it was cool. I mean, it did happen quick, and that felt good, you know, after years of struggling. It's like finally some success.
Is it weird, though, that success is in a totally different realm than what you thought when you were in your private winter school you thought you were going to be when you grew up? Because you're nowhere near the race world that you used to be a part of.
It's all kind of the same. I never really made a conscious decision. There was that one defining moment that was, okay, you're done with ski racing now. Put that away. But it wasn't like, okay, now what am I going to do? Am I going to take this focus and like switch it over and become a big mountain skier? Like, no, I just always was a skier first, really. And I just lost sight of that. And it just found its way back naturally. And I was just a skier again. And so it wasn't like I ever decided to focus on being a big mountain skier or a free skier, whatever you want to call it. Like I always was. Yeah, I had to focus and be like, okay, I got to go work with more photographers, but I loved it. And maybe that was because I like taking photos and I like photography. Sometimes it's hard. You go out, it snows, and everybody's like, oh, yeah, powder day, let's go skiing. You're like, fuck, I'm going to work. But on the other hand, like, I really enjoy it. And I'm on snow so much. Sometimes I could use more time just skiing for fun, for sure. But skiing is just like ever evolving for me. And what I like about skiing is just ever evolving. And I just really loved trying to make a ski photo. That was cool. Like getting to go out with all these names that you grow up hearing about. And, I grew up in Salt Lake, like being able to go out with Lee Cohen. That was huge. That
Yeah.
was so cool. I loved it. And I wanted to just keep doing it as much as I could. And so I put in a shit ton of time. So I don't know if I attribute like my success in ski photos to my skiing or just the time I put into it. Because honestly, there's a lot of shitty skiers that get a lot of published photos. So, it's not just how you ski.
But there's a lot of top level guys that don't get the amount of photos that you get. And then there's other people that I know that do. Like you look at Casey Dean, he's going to get a ton of photos. You look at Amy Ingebrigtsen, she's going to get a ton of photos.
Mhm.
She knows how to ski for the camera. You know how to ski for the camera. But there's some dudes that, yeah, they're always going to get their gnarly photos, get their big cliffs in powder, but they're not going to be able to get the everyday photos that everybody needs. You can do everything.
I think that helps. Like that's certainly helps is like knowing how to ski in every condition. Anybody can make a good ski photo in powder, but you just can't get powder every day. So being able to produce in any condition, any day, that certainly helps.
As all this is building, because your whole career is building, you're filming with Warren Miller a bunch, but you have sponsors. You went out and got yourself Blizzard. You got on them right at the right time, it seemed like, because their brand has been blowing up.
Mhm.
Maybe not right now what it was 6 years ago, where that's all anybody could talk about, it seemed like. But the brand has been very strong in the past decade, where I don't even think it existed in the U.S. for a while. But who else is paying you? Who else are you able to get to sponsor you?
Well, it took a little while. Blizzard wasn't paying me at first there. It was just skis and then it was just clothes and just, just product.
When you get 30 photos a year, they're going to eventually pay you.
Right. And I think that's why, just to go back to like the big break, it's just never felt like I had this huge moment where it was like, boom, now you got all these sponsors, now you got all this money and you're getting film parts and it's been like really gradual. And I was always kind of shocked at just how long it took. Cause maybe in my mind, I thought it was going to be this like quick thing. Like I'm a trained skier, like I'm coming into this, I'm going to crush it. And it's just not that.
I mean, I look at it as quick for you on your side, though, because there's a lot of dudes that start at like 8 years old and focus on park and eventually want to go to backcountry and big mountain. And they might never make it, where you stopped racing and really focused on the big mountain side of things, even though it's something that you've always done. But you focused on it for 8 years and you're at the top level of everything. So while 8 years might seem like a while, that's fast to go to the top of a world that you're not even in.
Right.
But that's my opinion.
No, you're right. It just didn't feel that way, I guess, at the time. Sorry, I forgot your question again. What was?
Oh yeah, so who pays you to ski these days?
Right. So we got Blizzard and Technica, Helly Hansen, and Lakey poles and gloves, Puck, goggle helmet, and Osprey backpacks.
I would think that you do pretty well from skiing alone. I like to ask people about money just to see where they are. And I mean, is it something that you can make 6 figures doing, being a skier every year?
I think so. I don't see why not.
How long does it take you to get there, though? Is that just the past couple years and you have a few more years of that and then you have to figure something else out?
I'm happy where I'm at now. I hope I can maintain for at least a few more years. I don't see why I couldn't ski the way I do for another 10 years or so, unless I have an injury. So I think I'm in a good spot. I wonder, about people that are taking bigger hits to their body, how long that lasts. But I think thankfully that the skiing that I can do it seems like I could do it for another 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, you are not required to do the gnarly shit that a lot of other people are required to do. You are required to ski big stuff in Alaska at breakneck speeds, but you don't have to hit the huge sends and trick off of stuff in the backcountry. No one expects that from you or wants that from you, which is nice.
No, I guess it is kind of nice. I don't know if that's how it really is, though, for other kids. Like, are people expected? I've never been told I have to do anything by anybody. People are usually pretty respectful of, like, people, usually filmers or sponsors, like, recognize that you're kind of putting it out there for them and have never been super pushy to me. And I hope that's not the case for other people.
Well, I don't know if people are pushy to them, but when you're paying someone who defines themselves by hawking themselves off huge cliffs, you expect them to hawk themselves off huge cliffs all the time because that's what they sell themselves as.
Right. And I guess that it's not a ski racing thing, but what I grew up skiing and loved doing was not necessarily jumping off shit. It was skiing technical, steep stuff and trying to ski it quick and fast and with style. And, when I became a professional skier, like, that felt like it was underrepresented, but I wasn't going to, like, okay, shit, now I get, and I've seen that with other people, like other ski racers that had come into big mountain skiing. They're like, okay, now I got to do a million backflips today, or now I got to, start hitting these big cliffs. And it's like, just, I guess if you like it, do it. I don't know. The skiing that I enjoyed was not really being represented in a way that kind of pushed me to put that out there more than I, like, otherwise maybe would have.
Mm-hmm.
With, like, the Return of the Turn, this, like, web series that I do. Like, I don't really need to talk about how much I like turning, but because it just feels like this underrepresented part of skiing that I never saw, it's like, okay, I really have to push this because it's something I care about, because if I care about it, like, other people probably care about it.
With that web series, it's one where when any other athlete puts together a web series, it's, you can sell it on personality, because one thing we haven't talked about is you've got a pretty incredible personality that helps make you a much more marketable athlete than just another guy who does a little bit of Warren Miller stuff and shoots photos. It's like you're totally cool with making fun of yourself and being an idiot in, like, the best possible way, which is awesome. I love people that are like that, and people gravitate towards those type of people. And I think that's helped your career as well. But when you come out with something like Return of the Turn, like, if Seth Morrison wanted to put together a web series, he couldn't put together Return of the Turn. No one would want to support that at all from him. It's like, no, we want you to do Return to Alaska and the return of the double backflip off of this.
Right.
But seeing you do it, it's like, we want to see this dude have as much fun as he can and really just showcase how to turn a ski with the style that he has. Nobody else in skiing can put out a project like that. And it's kind of the niche that I feel like you've carved that no one else has, which is awesome.
I appreciate that. I don't know if nobody else could do it. I think I was just one of the first ones to do it. I mean, there's kids out there for sure that can do it.
But who has a personality? It's not just about the skiing. Because really, the funny people in skiing these days, you've got Cody Townsend, and I'm just trying to think of others that really make me laugh in the ski world. Because, before it was McConkey and you didn't need to think about anybody else. But when he passed, it was like, Cody's picked up.
Dude, Cody's not funny.
He's the next best thing. Not the next best thing, but he's the extension of that in Squaw Valley. I feel like that sense of humor. You've got it, but there's nobody else funny in skiing.
Nah, Cody's funny. I'm just kidding. But I would like to see return of Seth Moe in Alaska. That'd be sick.
Yeah, I just like to see the return of him anywhere. He doesn't return my texts anymore. I think he's just totally over me.
Brutal.
Yeah, it is what it is. I've been harassing him to do a podcast for a long time. But you know what? I got you to do one. And before we talk about what projects we'd like Seth to do, and before I get into my last segment, what are the projects we should look forward to from you?
Oh, man. Well, that's a tough question in these times,
Yeah.
We should probably do a return to normal life and then figure out skiing after that. I really don't know. Like, however long this is going to last. Like, we were going to go up to Alaska and do a Return of the Turn up there. That got canned. We are planning on going to South America to do a Return of the Turn. We'll see how long this whole thing lasts. And I think we just need to be fluid and flexible. And as this thing changes, just figure it out as we go along. It's hard to say what this whole thing's going to look like. And I think the first thing that's going to go is special project media budgets. So my money is probably going to be the first to go. We come back to this whole thing. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I don't know what we're going to be able to do. We're going to have to do more with less, or maybe more closer to home, but I mean, that's the beauty of living in a place like this or skiing. Like, you can kind of ski anywhere. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's going to be changes all over the industry, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they shake out. At this point in the show, I have something that I like to call inappropriate questions. And I get someone that you know to record 3 questions. I play them to you, you answer them. For this one, I reached out to a friend at Powder Magazine, Sierra Shafer. I think you have a history with her as well. You know her well.
Never heard of her.
Well, she towers over you. If you were to play basketball against her, she would just slam every shot you had right back in your face. But it's not about height here. It's about her questions. And we will go into Sierra's first inappropriate question.
Okay, question number 1. Do your parents, Harry and Linda, still give you a monthly allowance?
No, I don't get a monthly allowance.
When did allowance stop?
I don't know if I ever had a monthly allowance.
Ah, man, I was hoping you were going to still have one.
I know, me too.
Did Harry and Linda pay for everything when you were ski racing and in college and all that stuff until you kind of made it?
Yeah, they paid for my ski racing, paid for my college. I was very fortunate in that way.
Well, it's awesome to have parents that are able to do that.
Yeah, they've been nothing but supportive. So I've been very lucky. Sierra likes to harass my dad, Harry. They have a very special relationship.
Okay, we won't ask her about his Harry Caston, but we will go into question number 2.
Question number 2. How long have you gone without showering or changing your t-shirt?
Oh man, I showered this morning, but I put the same t-shirt back on. I've been wearing the same shirt for... Dude, I washed it in the shower last week, but I've probably been wearing the same t-shirt for about 2 weeks.
Does it sometimes get to the point where there's like such a funk that you have to wash it in the shower?
Okay, so this is not really a plug, but I got this new kind of spring wear from Helly Hansen. It's like this SPF sun shirt with a hood on it.
Okay.
I've been skiing in it every day. I've been running in it every day, working out, and it like does not smell. It's a magic shirt. I've been waiting for it to smell. At least nobody's telling me that I smell. So I've been wearing it for 2 weeks. I washed it once in the shower.
You're solo isolating, so maybe people aren't there to tell you that you smell.
Well, okay, so I'm isolated with 4 other people. Cam McLeod is a photographer and his wife. My girlfriend and I are staying in the A-frame that's 20 feet away. So we're quarantining together.
Okay, I thought you were totally by yourself.
I wish.
Well, your girlfriend probably doesn't want to hear that, but whatever. I will go with your final inappropriate question.
Marcus, what do you find sexiest about your fellow Blizzard skier, Connery Lundeen?
Wow. If sex was a human, it'd be Connery.
We can leave it at that. Your career throughout the whole time, man, you haven't had to be gnarly. You hadn't had to do things that are out of your comfort zone. You're just able to carve your own niche in skiing. And like I said, I don't think anybody else has been able to do that and be able to be on the top level where you are. So it's been cool to watch, and I thank you for your time, man.
Well, I appreciate it, and that's what it's about, right? Just do it your way. Personal expression. Go be yourself. Don't do it somebody else's way.
Well, you did it somebody else's way for a long time, and then you found your own path.
That's right.
So that was time with Marcus Caston, and I haven't talked with Marcus much before. I didn't expect him to be as laid back as he came off. I was thinking more a high-energy type dude who was a jokester per se, and that was not the case at all. He was all introspective, and that was great. It's interesting to think that all it could have taken for Marcus was to grow up in another town, and his whole life would have been completely different. I guess that's true of everyone to some degree. But the real reason Marcus's career is so unique is that his ski goals were pointed at gates. Movies and photos weren't a thing until racing was taken away. Then he gets into photography, gets a gig, goes on a Warren Miller trip, and then changes his life with a ski race type contest win at an event that was pretty much created for a dude like him. And then his career takes off. Marcus has never had to land any tricks. He's never had to drop huge cliffs. He's asked to turn his skis and make skiing look like fun. And with photo and video, he's become one of the best at that. That's the podcast for this week. At this point, I want to ask you to review me wherever you listen to me. If you're on an iPhone, here's what you need to do. Click on the podcast button, search for the Powell Movement, click on my logo when you search it, scroll down to where you see the stars, hit 5 stars, and you're done. It really is that easy, and it's greatly appreciated. I also want to thank you very much for listening, and if you have any questions or concerns for me, my email is mike@thepowellmovement.com, and I will get back to you. Finally, I want to ask you to support my amazing sponsors who make the show happen. They are Evo, Stanley, 686, and the 10 Barrel Brewery. Please be safe and have a great week, everyone.